You are now tuned in to the Pink Boombox. Thank you for joining me, your host, Big V, for another episode of the Pink Boombox podcast. Listen, y'all, I know I was no call, no show last week, and I'm tardy this week, but I'm clocked in. So let's get to it because we have a lot to discuss. So let's kick it off with my Hot 16, which is my hot takes on everything related to culture. First of all, rest in peace to Tay Keith. You really fucked these niggas up this time with this one real bad, I fear. Tay Keith passed away, and his funeral was either yesterday or very recently at the time that I'm recording this. And, I was really sad to hear about his passing. I think it's always sad to hear about, someone's passing in general. And, he was a treasure, a musical genius, a musical force, and definitely someone who contributed significantly to the sound. And I can't wait to get to the episode where my Rap Yap is going to be about super producers, because I'm definitely going to highlight Tay Keith in that. And it really means something to be a super producer in hip-hop, and they don't get the love and the appreciation that they truly deserve. And he definitely earned that title in his short life. And I really just hope that his family and his loved ones, his close friends and family, are able to just cherish his memory and hold it close. And I hope it makes them feel warm as they adjust to their new normal without him. That's so hard. And in that same vein, rest in piss to Clive Davis. And I won't be discussing that any further. The BET Awards, child. I gotta get out my notes, okay? Because the BET Awards reported that this past BET Awards 2026 is the highest rating BET Awards show since 2019. And honestly, I can believe it. I watched the award show for myself, mainly because I wanted to see the Lauryn Hill tribute. If you listen to the first episode of the Pink Boombox podcast, my first time, then you heard me talk about my first time hearing a woman rhyme. You heard me talk about my first time listening to Lauryn Hill and how that impacted me and how it influenced me, and just period, the impact that I believe this woman has, not just on hip hop, but on music and on our community and our society as a whole. Like, I'm so glad that BET gave her a tribute, and the tribute was amazing. I'm going to get into everything, but let's really take it from the top. The things that I think went well, and why I think the BET Awards were so successful this year. For one, having vets like T.I. open, okay, or just period, people who are really at the top of their year, like in the past couple of years, and also people who the audience is a little bit more familiar with. I feel like probably around 2019 or a little bit before that, BET really started to shift the opener to be somebody who was like popular at the time and like maybe had a more younger audience. And you can see that they were really trying to like pander and bring in that younger crowd. And I remember, growing up watching the BET Awards, the person who opened the show was always somebody who was like at the top of their game. It wasn't always, you could consider them somewhat a new artist, but it was usually artists that we're familiar with who was having an incredible year. Like, that opener for the award show was something you like really had to earn throughout the year, and it wasn't just something that was given to you because you're trending and you're popular on the internet. And yeah, I think having someone like T.I. open, I'm not his biggest fan. Some of his antics over the past couple of years have definitely turned me off, but hearing that top back chorus reminded me of, he definitely got bangers, hits, classics that still can reach me. Okay, they can still reach me. I wish he would have performed more of Top Back, because honestly, this new song of his, while I know it's popular amongst the folks it's popular with, it's not my shush, but I overall think it was a decent performance. I also think they had just better performances overall, from performers like Ray to Baby Keem, and the Lauryn Hill tribute, the D'Angelo tribute. All of these things highlighted really amazing artists who really can give it on stage, right? Again, not just folks who are popular, not just folks who are trending, but people who really have skill set when it comes to this craft and who really wow on the stage. And so I think the performances definitely played a big role, and they gave us super iconic moments like Janet Jackson in a Tupac t-shirt. It was just so amazing, and then to watch her give that award to Tiana Taylor, knowing how much she loves Janet Jackson and appreciates Janet Jackson, and this may be a hot take, but I personally feel like Tiana Taylor did deserve the award, especially when you think about the way that she was treated when she won that other award, and there's this period, the way she was treated during the film award season in general. It was just atrocious. And so I don't understand why people didn't. I mean, I do understand y'all some haters, and that's just y'all haters. And there was even people who said, I saw a thread that said Lauryn Hill didn't deserve an icon tribute, and thankfully the comments got that person together and collected them up as they needed to be. But I personally feel like Tiana Taylor definitely deserved the award. She deserved to be acknowledged, especially in a space that is going to appreciate her blackness and not punish her for it. So I was glad to see her have that moment. The D'Angelo tribute was wonderful. Again, more iconic moments. George Clinton, hello, love seeing George Clinton, love hearing George Clinton. And anytime, any chance we get the opportunity to see a legend like George Clinton on stage, I'm gonna say thank you very much. And but it wasn't just George Clinton, right? It's George Clinton on stage with D'Angelo's band, with Ari Lennox, Duran Bernard, Ray, BJ, the Chicago Kid. The selection was just top tier, okay? The vocals were vocaling. Of course, all of the mics were on, and everybody sounded nice. And I appreciate the song selection. I feel like they really, they could have made some more obvious choices, but I think the songs they chose really appreciated D'Angelo and the range of his sound when it came to soul music, the jazz and the R&B and the soul and the message music, right? I feel like they made a lot of the right selections, both in artists and songs, and it was a wonderful tribute. I don't know if it needed all of that background, like the ambiance kind of situation that was going on, but I'm sure that there was thought put behind it, and it had its intention. And I also love seeing his kids. I love seeing Lauryn Hill's kids. I just love seeing people's families be incorporated into these tributes and into these moments. It makes it even more personal, and I think it makes it even more of a celebration. And so I really listen, am grieving D'Angelo to this day. It really hits me that D'Angelo gone. And while I hate that, BET even had to do a memorial tribute for D'Angelo, I'm glad it was what it was, because it was definitely a good tribute for sure. And it made me realize that if there's a D'Angelo biopic, hear me, if there's a D'Angelo biopic and BJ the Chicago Kid is not casted, keep it. Thank you. We don't need it. Thank you kindly. Now, for the piece de resistance, okay, what I showed up to this BET, because it's been a minute since I actually sat down and watched the full BET Awards, but I wanted to watch the whole show because I knew I wanted to talk about it on my podcast, and so I wanted to give it a chance and see what it gave. And the best part of the whole show, not just personally for me, I think objectively, period, was definitely the Lauryn Hill tribute. My goodness. Just so many amazing women in hip hop on that stage to tribute a force, a figure, just like a power when it comes to hip hop. She is her own power source. And it made me think about so many things that I said in my first episode, my first Rap Yap, when I talked about the significance that Lauryn Hill has when we talk about women in hip hop, but period, MCs in general, right? The grim, there's nobody really seeing this woman when it comes to just overall capability. overall skill set, and not just like overall, but like above and beyond. Listening to the song selection and thinking about the critique I saw about how she didn't deserve the Icon Award because she only gave us one album, and I think that's nonsense. First of all, you don't. I saw somebody also say on Threads like, y'all don't count the Unplugged album as an album, because I do. I think it's one of the best albums, and I think it's the album that really speaks to why we never really got another like main, why nothing else came after that. Like, she made it very clear that she was retiring from the nonsense, the gimmicks, the game. She did not want to be a part of the machine. And I think, some of y'all aren't used to people actually living out some of the things that they preach. And it's like, how can you make all of these indictments of this system, the music industry, and the government, the society that we live in all together, and then continue to participate in the game? Like, it actually makes sense for Lauryn Hill to never give us another album in the way that most artists, continue to give us albums and continue to, do the work of the industry and make people filthy rich off they black backs. Like, but the tribute, because that's what we're here. The tribute was just amazing, and the song selection really made me think about the fact that most artists, literally the type of hits, every song was just like hit after hit after hit, smash after classic, right? Let's move from the word hit. Let's talk about classics, words, lyrics, and songs that still have deep meaning, right? When you say hip hop starting the heart, now everybody trying to chart, literally. You got a bunch of people trying to come out with the song of the summer, and you got a few artists like Rhapsody coming out with God Got an Afro, and Tierra Wax Museum, and Vince Staples Crybaby. Like, people who still care about rap, that it means something and it has some type of significance, and importantly has lyrics that are going to stand the test of time. Like, a lot of those lyrics in Lauryn Hill's songs still apply to this day, regardless of how old they are, regardless of if it was, just a miseducation of Lauryn Hill. We are still talking about music that is so relevant right now. And artists go their whole careers trying to compile the amount of hits Lauryn Hill has on one album. And I feel like that was so well displayed on that stage. And again, the selection of the people who did it, I love that we got to see rap girls who, one, can rap and sing, right? Like Doechii and Doja, and so many girls who also are carrying not just a torch, but that the weight of what it means to really, like I said, make the art reflective of not just your politics, but the world you want to be in, the world you want to see, and like give people something to actually take away and live with. I live with Lauryn Hill's music. You know what I'm saying? It's not just a moment for me. It doesn't remind me of a time. I live with it, and it's relevant, and it comes up periodically all throughout my life. And so I as a Lauryn Hill fan, and obviously a bit of a Lauryn Hill connoisseur, I think the tribute was just so well done. Seeing her kids, seeing her kids get up there and perform her songs, and just songs that's relevant to her and their heritage as Marley children. It's just, man, I was really glad to see it. BET did do a really great job, and I don't like giving BET credit. Ever since they had Beyonce fucked up. Even before then, there's a lot of things to critique BET about, like what Keke Palmer said, because the girl was never wrong, okay? But I want to say one last thing about the Lauryn Hill tribute before I move on to Keke Palmer. What it also made me sit with is there is no serious conversation about a queen of rap if it's not Lauryn Hill. Like, when you talk about the queen of rap, her career and what she represents is the epitome of that title, right? And that's why you saw the level of respect respect and the level of admiration and the level of creativity that we saw, right, in her tribute. I saw a conversation about a certain lady and what is it going to look like when it's time for her, if she gets a chance to get, a tribute of sorts. Because I really don't know who would do it. But if she was to get a tribute, what that would look like. And it's like, again, the legacy ain't just about charts. It shouldn't be. It never should have been about charts, because hip hop started in the heart, and a lot of rappers don't have heart no more. And what Lauryn Hill will forever have, and will forever deliver harder than any bar, which mind you, the bars are hard, harder than any flow, any technique that she has in her arsenal, her heart for this shit. It beats so deeply, so loudly, bigger than any bass, bigger than any 808. It just is so heavy. Her heart for hip hop and rap and for blackness. She is the queen of rap. She will always be the queen of rap. And naming anybody else the queen of rap based off of any other reasons is a very unserious thing. Let me say the things that I feel like was a no for me for the BET Awards. Drewski. I feel like he is representative of the fact that sometimes what's funny on social media doesn't always translate to television. And just because you are skillful and like good at social media, great at, so very successful at social media, right? I think Drewski is really successful at what he does. I think the campaign that he did for the BET Awards was the most effective campaign I've seen for a BET Awards promotion in a really long time. I feel like it was really creative, and I feel like it was representative of what he does well, right? Which is really push things on the algorithm and really reach the people far and wide. And I think that the way that he hosted the show is proof that don't always translate to TV. I don't think any of his bits were funny. And I feel like the only funny moment he really had was the moment with Keke Palmer. And I feel like that moment was funny because of Keke Palmer and not Drewski. And like, I don't think it was awkward, but I mean, when we talk about the type of host and the type of things that hosts have done, to really like show stop and really like make it a big production, it fell short, and it's like, I'm excited for him being the youngest person to ever host the BET Awards. I would have been more excited if he really like gave the type of performance that we've seen hosts give over the years. And I don't think he did, I think he did the best that he could. And I think that, it could have been better. And I definitely think that Keke Palmer should have been host. Like, to take somebody who has sure been very successful on social media, but literally has no acting career, no history in hosting television, period. Again, like, some of the choices is obvious that, they want to trend. And I think that was effective in terms of actually getting people's attention and reaching folks. But I don't think Drewski delivered in terms of the comedy, the level of comedy that you expect, especially from a BET Awards host, and just like the level of performance you expect. It didn't give that for me. What also was an absolute no for me was Don Toliver. Don Toliver, French Montana, Max B, Rick Ross, all of those performances were terrible. For me, y'all, if you know, I cannot stand a motherfucker screaming to the track. Like, please, if the track needs to be on, why are you there? And I feel like the best rap performances, like, notice nobody had a track playing in the background when they were doing the Lauryn Hill tribute. Because hello, you need to be able to rap these lyrics. T.I. didn't have his lyrics playing in the background. Baby King didn't have his lyrics playing in the background. Like, yo. And then what makes it even worse is when there's moments like in French Montana's set where he slips up on a word and you can hear it because the track is playing in the background. And like it really felt like Don Toliver was just like screaming to the track, and like the dances in his set really didn't make sense. They felt very weird and out of place. And I know that this has become a new standard. Like, I know a lot of y'all don't care about these performances where the entire track is playing in the background and the artist is just doing the best they can to keep up with it, and really just like not even doing too much rapping. Like, the track is actually saying most of the words while they're just kind of there trying to keep rap along to it and like hit a punchline every now and then really hard for like some energy. But bring back rapping, okay, to an instrumental or a band. Crazy concept. Rapping to actual like music and instruments instead of rapping to the pre-recorded track. And mind you, a performance track is one thing. That's a track where you're really going to have, that's kind of what like T.I. had, where it's really just the chorus, a couple ad-libs, maybe a punchline here and there. We're talking about the entire pre-recorded track, all the lead vocals, every verse, every chorus, every pre-chorus, bridge, the whole thing playing in the background. It sounds like the TV and the radio is on at the same time, and it just makes for a shitty performance. It does. And and it's like, what can you say? Because at the end of the day, like I said, it's becoming a new standard. Like, I think about so many artists who perform like this, and y'all legit be like at their shows ranting and raving, selling them out like Rod Wave, NBA Youngboy. Like, it's like, no. And that's why I appreciate artists like Mona Leo. When she's on that stage, she is rapping. Most of the performance I've seen her rap, there's no pre-recorded track in the background, and it's just proof that it's possible. And I don't even know why people need to be shown that that's possible. Like, I want folks to understand that that's a performance crutch. Like, most people are playing that track in the background because they don't know what their cues are. They barely remember the lyrics. They have a hard time breathing. And if that track ain't playing, you can catch all of that shit. And even sometimes with the track playing, like I said, in the case of French Montana, that contributes to you being able to peep. Like, oh, well, I need people to move away from performing to the pre-recorded track. Please. It is ruining rap performances. Also, that saxophone moment was lame. Very lame. And I'm like, why y'all only do it to Doechii? Okay, exactly. We know why y'all only did it to Doechii. Overall, I do think it was a good show. I can understand why this show had the most views that a BET Awards show has seen since 2019. And again, I do think that a lot of that is because of Drewski's social media campaign to promote the BET Awards. I think he is a force to be reckoned with on social media. That just does not translate to television, and we need to be honest about that. I need us to be honest about that. Please and thank you. In relation to the BET Awards, there's been a conversation that's been happening directly after the BET Awards. Someone got on Threads and said that she wants to call a boycott of Young Miami's Spend Dat. And I feel like that's because there were multiple references to it throughout the show. But then also when Young Miami got up to present the award, the crowd just started singing the song. Which I also think it was a huge miss to not have her performing that song. But, you know, again, decisions were made. But I would have traded that French Montana Max B Rick Ross moment. Easily could have traded that for a Young Miami performance. And I don't even listen to that song, but I would have enjoyed that performance much more than what French Montana gave. And I'm sure she would have been rapping to the pre-recorded track too, but still, I would have preferred to see her up there instead of them men doing what they were doing. Anywho, back to the boycott of Spend Dat. the respectability betties, as I like to call them, they're a different version of pick me, right? They're the respectability pick me's. And the head one in charge, India Ari, definitely jumped in to give her 2 cents on the matter. And she's really been trying to defend herself, because I can get that, the internet will take what you say and misrepresent it all the time. But I think what India Ari doesn't understand is that, what do y'all think getting free is, if your version of getting free still looks like policing and shaming people based off of what you think has dignity and what doesn't, right? Because like, when we talk about our community, and I know this, especially being, not just being from the hood, but also being someone who's very loud about the hood and the impact that it has and how significant it is and how much I love being from the hood, people will always say we're not a monolith. But then when you start to praise the hood, people want to put the hood down, and they want to treat the hood like it's something to be ashamed of, and it shouldn't be a representative of Black culture, even though so much Black culture, especially popular Black culture, comes from the hood, right? So the scammers and the boosters and the dealers and the hustlers, these people literally are culture creators just as much as a Toni Morrison and Octavia Butler and people in India Ari and the people who y'all respect, right? When it comes to the things that they've created, when it comes to culture. But we always are supposed to shame the hood, and it's like, who taught you that? Where is that coming from? Like, I want freedom where all Black people can express themselves without scrutiny and without the hypocrisy of white supremacy. And this boycott of Spend That period, just like the negative tone towards that song, it's just like, it's like, who this for, actually? Because it doesn't feel like it's for us. It feels like, they looking, y'all stand up straight and don't slouch and pull your pants up and take that bonnet off and make sure you look presentable for them. Like, that's the tone that this has. And so it doesn't feel like freedom for Black folks. It feels like you being ashamed of things that white supremacy has told you to be ashamed of, has taught you, programmed you to be ashamed of. And a great thing about being from the hood is we can't be ashamed. Like, how are we supposed to be ashamed of ourselves? How are we supposed to be ashamed of ourselves? All we've known, all we've ever known, all we've ever been. And it's weird, like I said before, the way that people want us to be ashamed of ourselves, and then our culture laps around the world and back again. It's a huge commodity, and so many movements and significant things that come from the hood. Again, and this doesn't surprise me that India Ari jumped into this conversation, because if you don't remember previously, she called out Megan Thee Stallion because I think they were both booked for Essence Fest, and she was just so disgusted by the way that Megan Thee Stallion presents herself. And it's just like, it's just respectability, Betty. It's just, and I hate, I hate it, because it's like, y'all don't want to see. I hate the incense, herb, I only wear skirts and flowy thing type of bitches that feel like that's just not some prairie down on the farm shit in Black. Like, you're just doing some like really conservative religious nonsense, and you think it's not what it is because you're Black. I really hate that. I really hate that for us, because I just think we have to realize that respectability politics ain't gonna free us. And honestly, the scammer might. The scammer might. the scammer might free us from capitalism. The boosters might free us from capitalism. Okay? But respectability politics ain't. And that's all that shit is. And so y'all need to pack that up. Thank you. Speaking of things that need to be packed up, DJ Akazempic. I won't be referring to him as anything else moving forward. Is DJ Akazempic. Boy on that stuff, okay? He out here slim and trim, paying for sex workers, and that's no shade. That's what she is. And I do believe that, sex work is real work, but like plenty of other people have already clocked on the internet, it's just incredibly interesting how the same man who is always shaming women for being sex forward in their music and just in their lives, period, ain't never talking about a man who ain't never been linked to somebody other than a sex worker. I can't. We've never seen DJ Akazempic with somebody other than a sex worker. So it's like, the call always be coming from inside the house, Livingston. And the reason why you got to really put some real respect on it, because imagine having to pretend like that man's touch really does something for you. Like, those women deserve every coin. Imagine really having to convince Livingston that you feeling him and that he's attractive and it's not his money. I like the way. Give them women Emmys and Golden Globes now. Oh my God. Sex work is real work. Please, he is proof of it. Like, them girls have an impossible job and they do it. They deserve every fucking dime DJ Akazempic has to offer before that case comes for you, brother, because it's coming. He had an open case and I think something happened with it. It got reopened though. So yeah, I wish you no luck with that, DJ Akazempic. I wish you the worst. In fact, you know who I wish the absolute best for? Megan Thee Stallion. Megan Thee Stallion has been, doing things on social media lately. She was in the Love Island. Let me not get that show wrong because I don't watch it. But unfortunately, everything I know about it has been forced on me. Y'all are obsessed with it. I saw a video of her doing a guest spotlight on that show again, but she also was on the internet recently saying that the hotties is tripping while she is, securing the bag for Act 3, and like, love that for you, love that for us. Drop the track. Thank you. You the budget can be nice, and you could drop the track, okay? And when the check cleared, do whatever you need to do, but for now, Megan, drop the track. I also saw recently that what's his face? Klay Thompson was outside somewhere at I think at a game or something like that, and they booed him. And then the DJ played Megan Thee Stallion. More of that energy. Good job, everybody involved. Good job. To wrap up, we're gonna wrap up our High 16 with the media corner, which is where I'm going to talk about the things that I'm watching and the music that I'm listening to. So I finished Euphoria. I finally finished season 3 of Euphoria. I rewatched the whole series. And let me just say, I might have been a little disappointed. Like, I feel like season 3 dropped the ball in so many ways. It really gave this Western cowboy, what if Rue was in a Western movie vibe, especially towards the end when the climax of the story really started to happen. And I did not vibe with that. I really didn't like that at all. And I feel like there were so many missed opportunities, in my opinion. For example, I think if we were gonna have a moment with Rue and Jules, I feel like we should have talked about some of the things where we last left them off at, and it just seems like they were trying to move forward, and it's of course they're gonna have all these issues and these wires crossed. They have this big blow up. I just feel like there could have been more dialogue between Rue And Jules and yet there was more time spent talking about what Jules had been doing, which I guess is cool. But the reason why we're here is because of their, relationship. And I feel like they could have hashed out some of those things a little bit more so that when Jules really does go and slap Rue, rightfully so, like there's a level of understanding. There's been a level of communication and like, and so now we're at the point where, yeah, you get backhand over the easel. Like, I just think that there was a missed opportunity with Rue. I think there was so many missed opportunity with Nate, and I know that I think there's a narrative that the actor that plays Nate really hates the show and couldn't wait for it to be over. I don't know. And maybe that led to some of the choices, but I feel like there was so many holes in his story. Like, why does he get involved with this loan shark in the first place? Like, I don't feel like that's super clear. And then the way that they just kind of packed up his death, it felt like just trying to get this over with, because like his parents, his brother, like Nate comes about the only one that, like, obviously it's not a stable family, but I have a super hard time believing that Nate passes and they're just selling this story that he just left and he just disappeared. Like, that doesn't make sense. And, yeah, I just feel like there were a lot of loose ends that they did not actually tie up. I said before, when I talked about the spoiler of finding out, the ending before I watched it, knowing that Rue dies, I feel like that made some kind of sense. But there was still some things for me that was like, this don't make complete sense. And then the whole revenge moment just felt like, oh, we got some extra time. How can we like add something else in here and end it in this particular way? Like, and I can get, Ali being pushed to that point and like losing Rue, and I get why I appreciated Ali's backstory. I feel like that was very relevant, especially if we are going to then, make him get this revenge. Like, I can understand, given all of the loss that he's taken and how hard he takes the loss, and how finding out that he particularly leans towards younger people to sponsor, like all of that felt really necessary to kind of build the swell to the moment between him and, the big cowboy dude that basically killed Rue and all that good stuff. I can't think about his name right now. But yeah, I just feel like there was just, as someone who like felt like season 2 was so good. Season 2 was so good. I don't know what happened with Kat and why Kat fell off the cast, but I feel like there was going into this like OnlyFans storyline with Maddie and Miss Blue Jeans. It really didn't make sense for her. Like, what her wanting to be popular makes sense, but her wanting to be an OnlyFans girl, like, it just a lot of things fell forced. Like, that would have been a great storyline for Kat. That would have been a great storyline for Kat and Maddie. I don't know. Everything was just really weird, and I mean, I got through it, obviously, but yeah. I am currently rewatching 2 things. I restarted Power because my cousin has never seen Power before, so when I'm hanging out with him, we're watching Power, and then on my downtime, I'm watching Ginny and Georgia because I haven't seen the new season. Obviously, I started over from the beginning. And let me tell you something. Jenny is so insufferable. Jenny is so insufferable in the first season. Oh my God. And it's not just like her being that way towards her mom. Like, she's a dick to everybody. She's a dick to Max. Not Max. She's a dick to Max's brother. Can't think of his name either. But the neighbor boy next door. She's a dick to him. She's a dick to her brother. Like, you seen her trying to get Austin in therapy, but you were the one stealing on day 2 just so the girls can like you. Like, you don't think you need a therapist? You self-harming and all this other stuff. Like, it's weird to watch her get so upset with Georgia, all while doing a lot of the same things that she's upset with Georgia about, being secretive and not telling the truth and struggling with things that she doesn't want to share and she doesn't want support with, right? I like I said, I did not forget, but it is such a painful reminder of how just like hypocritical and judgmental and such a little asshole Jenny is in that first season. And like, again, incredible. And like, I get it. I get it. And at the same time, that doesn't mean it's cool, you know? So I'm glad I'm getting closer into the second season because that first season just Jenny was blowing me every time. At every turn, Jenny was blowing me. Okay, now on to what I've been listening to. Tierra Whack's Whack Museum. I don't want to talk about nothing else. I can't bring myself to really listen to anything else right now. Tierra Whack's Whack Museum is a lyrical masterpiece. It is a masterclass on not just being a student of hip hop, but what it looks like to lead with your words. What it looks like to know that you don't gotta do a bunch of extra because the lyrics is going to do all the work for you. It's smart rap, it's intelligent rap, it's intentional rap because it's thought behind it. It makes you think, it makes you question, right? I am so in love with Wax Museum. I can't even pick a favorite song off the project. I've just been, it's a top to down situation for me. Like, play it at the top, let it go all the way to the last song. And I love this type of music. I like I said earlier, I really appreciate artists like Tierra Whack in a moment where it just feels like everything is about the trend and everything is about trying to follow a wave. Like, Tierra comes in like a tsunami and says, I am not only there's no need for me to chase a wave because I'm in an entire natural disaster all by myself and none of you motherfuckers are ready. Like, if this is just a tape, this is just a tape. This is just a tape that she dropped on Juneteenth. Like, I don't even think this is an actual like album. It gives album. It could be an album. It has the quality of an album. I am in awe of Tierra Whack. And this is definitely, and I've said this before when I've talked about her previously, it took me some time to really build my palette up to be able to like enjoy Tierra Whack, get into it, appreciate it. A lot of it was going over my head at first. And when I know that and that's the importance of knowing when it's you and not the artist, because knowing that it was me and taking some time back and then coming back into it at a different time, I can now appreciate projects like Whack Museum in a way that I know a lot of people can't, because again, people like easy rap, people like dumb rap, and that's not, people don't like rap that takes as much work, both in making the music and consuming the music, right? This is an incredible project, Tierra Whack, and you absolutely are the future of hip hop. No doubt about that. My God. I can't praise this project enough. I can't. Like, I would sleep with this. I would buy this project dinner and I would buy this project. I would pay this project's rent. Like, it has just been doing it for me. Like, it has been doing it for me. Truly can't tell y'all about anything else I'm listening to besides Tierra Whack's Whack Museum. And if you're not listening to it, you're fucking tripping. You're tripping. You're missing out. You tweaking hard. Now, I did listen to Chloe's new project. Can't think of the name of it. I know Timbaland produced everything on it. I appreciate it. I'm glad to see Chloe just like getting back in her bag and putting out new music. But Chloe Bailey, if I could say anything that'll reach you, you are the greatest producer you know. You are the greatest producer you know. You know, if you are happy to work with Timbaland, I'm happy for you, and I hope you know you are the greatest producer you know. You are. Besides Beyonce, it's you, girl. Let's jump into my rap yap for this week, which is my critical discussions about things relevant to rap, hip hop that are either current conversations or just something that I've been pondering around lately. So, as I mentioned earlier, right? The Lauryn Hill tribute have people online having a conversation about what is it going to look like when the time comes for a Nicki Minaj tribute. Who's going to get up there perform, right? Because I mean, a lot of the girls that we saw on stage are either girls that she doesn't support, is never really engaged with, or girls that she has attacked and like had, beef with for no good reason. And in general, when it comes to women in hip hop, it seems like she has more enemies than allies. And it's really unfortunate. And it's had me thinking about her legacy overall. And, what does it look like when a queen has no crown? There's a lot of people who will call Nicki Minaj the queen of rap. And, I don't agree with that. But I do understand why people would consider her that. For over a decade, Nicki Minaj has been a front runner when it comes to not just the women demographic in hip hop, but hip hop period. And personally, for me, Nicki Minaj's work as an artist fell short almost immediately as she entered the industry. When I was a teenager, I remember seeing Nicki Minaj on the Come Up DVD and thinking, oh my God, who is this girl? And I remember listening to Beam Me Up Scotty. And I also listened to Sucker Free. Sucker Free was my shit. And her mixtapes were incredible. And they had the foundation of what I assume was going to be one of the best modern day careers we've seen coming from a woman in hip hop. There were so many, in my opinion, immaculate bars spread across her mixtapes. And there was so much potential for her to be not just one of the best women, but one of the best rappers, period. I have a strong argument that I've made multiple times on TikTok, and I would definitely double down here on the Pink Boombox podcast and say that, in my opinion, I have a conspiracy theory that there was an intentional commercialization of Nicki Minaj, because if she would have just been given the room and the freedom to create and lean into her lyricism as an MC, then there would be no Big Three conversation without Nicki Minaj. And Drake probably wouldn't be in it. If Nicki Minaj was given the freedom to be the type of rapper that I first saw on the Come Up DVD, I think you would have to put her in some of those best of all time conversations. Like, you would have to put her in some of those GOAT conversations. And in my opinion, you would have to put her somewhere around Wayne. And the things that really, in my opinion, compromised her artistry as a lyricist was the gimmick of how she presented herself. If you go back to those early years in her career, in her what you would call her freshman or sophomore year, she showed up to every red carpet like it was a circus show. And it was obvious that they were trying to do this like copy and paste Gaga, but make it black and make it hip hop thing with her. And for all intents and purposes, that worked, right? For years, right? Best selling woman, not just in hip hop and music, period. Selling anything, everything you could think of, records, perfume, everything, right? The numbers speak for themselves. And it seems like that became a priority very early on, to chase the numbers and to chase the charts and to chase the commercial crossover success, and not chase artistry and not chase a hip hop legacy. And I think somewhere around Queen, especially when we get like Looking Ass Nigga, I think she started to pivot back to the MC that I met on the Come Up DVD. I also think at that point it was a little bit too late, you know? When you go from making the type of records that she was making in her mixtape era to making the crossover pop songs that she was making with folks like Will I Am, and then trying to switch back to that hard MC. Like, if she gave us bars, if she gave us, like, you know, a Queen from Queens rapping type of vibe, it would only be on like a feature like Monster or a few songs here and there on the album, but it wasn't the forward sound when she really started to develop her sonic thumbprint. And it's hard to change that, right? Just like a actual thumbprint, it's really hard to change your sonic thumbprint. Even an artist like Beyonce had to do it in a way that was forceful, right? And there still was, and to this day, there's a lot of people who claim to be Beyonce fans, and I believe that they are, who still struggle with the sonic changes and the way she continues to expand. But I think why Beyonce doesn't lose majority of her audience, or period, her authenticity and her integrity as an artist, period, is because the whole career has been about building this sonic thumbprint that you can't mistake for anybody else but Beyonce. But when you go back and you listen to the Pink Friday, that first album, right, and then all of the variations of that album, the re-up and all of these different things, even when you get to the Pink print, it doesn't sound authentic, and it doesn't sound like the same rapper. It sounds like this crossover pop rapper trying to imitate the New York gangsta, feisty, sexy, lyrical MC she was in her mixtape days. It sounds like her newer self trying to copycat her old self in a way that sounds disconnected. And I think that's why she hasn't really created an impactful verse since Monster. I'd argue with you, and you about that. Like, she hasn't given us an impactful verse that's really moved the people since. And that's because, again, she's not chasing an artistic legacy. She's chasing a legacy built on numbers and sales and things that have nothing to do with the quality of the music. And then, regardless of what she was chasing career-wise, I think a lot of her fan base, especially the ones who like to be in my comments, right? I got a comment from one of the barbs who was like, you can give all of this grace and understanding to Lotto, but you can't do that to Nicki. And it's like, Nicki hasn't done anything that deserves grace and understanding. I think too many of y'all underestimate how much people actually give a fuck about you marrying someone who has done the type of things that her husband has done and has caused the type of harm that he's caused. And when you make that man a part of your legacy, you might as well have dug the hole and buried your legacy in the fucking ground and pissed on it your motherfucking self. It was a terrible, terrible choice that her career has yet to recover from. Is she still selling? Sure. Just like McDonald's is still selling burgers. All right. She is not creating the type of art that inspires, that moves, nor does she have the type of support that would make any media company, channel, conglomerate want to honor her. How do you get on stage and honor somebody who has made the type of choices that she's made when it comes to her husband, when it comes to the politicians that she's aligned herself with, when it comes to the antagonization and the division that she's single-handedly responsible for when it comes to hip hop? Like, queens don't tear down their own kingdoms. And I think that's what y'all don't understand, why calling her the queen of rap just doesn't fit. It doesn't seem like there is any other artist, especially woman in hip hop, who is as committed to tearing down everything they fucking built besides Nicki Minaj. How can you pay tribute to somebody who seems so committed to destroying everything they built? What is there to then pay tribute to? If all that's left standing is chaos, drama, controversy, and subpar music in the second half of her career. The music, the Pink Friday 2 sound like I Gotta Do It. So I might as well try. It sounded like I gotta do it, so I might as well try, but I really don't want to do it. It sounded like help. I'm screaming for help. I'm crying. Please come help me. Get me out. I tried. I really tried to listen to that album, and that's a lot for me because I cannot tell you the last time I listened to a Nicki Minaj album. Because like I said, from Pink Friday, the first one, she lost me. She lost me. When you fall in love with fall in love with the quality of lyricism in her mixtapes, and then you get the mainstream for sale product that is her debut industry album, Pink Friday. It was just I knew there was no coming back from that. And almost 2 decades later, I wasn't wrong. Like, she never returned back to the form that she had in her mixtape era as a writer, as a lyricist, and then as an artist, as a public figure. She's done nothing but, like I said, stomp, kick, push, shove, destroy anything and everything she could have built that could have been honored. And I think that y'all have to come to accept that while you may be cool and with that shit, and you may be supporting her no matter what, the rest of us who aren't mind controlled by Debo, no way in the world can you reconcile the terrible things that she's decided to attach herself to, the terrible things and people and actions she's decided to attach herself to and represent herself with, and then still somehow be like, oh, but the music. And then, like I said, the music as of late ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. I'm going to conclude the Rap Yap by saying this. I think Nicki Minaj is too far gone. And just like I didn't think that there was any opportunity for her to return back to the sound that she had before the industry ruined it, I also don't think that there's any way for her to rebuild so much of the legacy that she has single-handedly ripped to shreds. And I think that those of you who consider her the queen of rap are just going to have to accept that your queen won't be crowned. She's not going to receive a crown, and she's not going to receive that legacy tribute because nobody in their right mind would honor her, especially not a BT. Especially not after the politicians that she's decided to align herself with. You know, y'all can wrap it up. I mean, y'all can give her a tribute on Twitter Spaces because that's about as good as it's gonna get. Okay. Moving on to the Yo V section. If you want to be heard on this podcast, feel free to hit me up at BIG, the letter V, that's big V, at pinkboomboxpodcast.com. This week's Yo V is actually going to be an update on my personal life. We're going to do a Yo V Dear Diary moment, okay? So the last episode in Yo V, somebody hit me up and asked me to talk more about being no contact with my mother and my brother and a good majority of our relatives. And update, I actually contacted my mother recently because she's very sick, and I just wanted to share this one because it's part of the reason why the episodes have been delayed, not denied. Well, last week it was denied. I'm so sorry, y'all, but this stuff, the situation with my mom is such a topsy-turvy one because the no contact really is what's best for me. And when I say no, I mean none. We do not talk. And when I contacted her, it was because her health was really critical. She has had a multitude of health issues my entire life. But they are definitely at a place where, you know, it's extremely life-threatening. And she was in a very critical moment. And I had to figure out, one, if I wanted to show up in that moment, how I wanted to show up, and more importantly, how I continue to show up for myself. And, you know, I decided that I did want to be informed, and I wanted to speak to her directly about what was going on because I didn't want anything to like catch me, you know, off guard or out of nowhere. And when I made that contact, she also requested. She had somebody in the family reach out to me, and you know, they did it, you know, they did it consciously and intentionally, and so I can appreciate that. There was no issue with that. It's just that when I reached out, I knew what I was gonna get. I knew I was gonna get hit with I want a relationship, and can we just let the past be the past? And she's always telling me to forgive, but I think what a lot of Black women who come from the, you know, background and the era and the like socialization that she comes from typically tend to sweep things under the rugs. Like that's how a lot of Black women, you know, deal with things, not even of like a certain age, just like period. I know Black women in my age cohort that just sweep things under the rugs because it's hard to deal with it, it's hard to face it, it's hard to be honest with it about it. And what's been so important to me in my journey and trying to, I haven't even called it a healing journey because I feel like I just been processing the trauma for I feel like me and my therapist has spent 5 years, almost 6 years, just processing trauma. And it just keeps piling on, it keeps compounding. But I'm sure my therapist would tell me that that's a part of the healing, right? A big part of the healing. And so what's been so important for me in that era was honesty. And this recent contact with her gave me a chance to be honest about some things I've never been honest about before. And I'm sharing this, one, for the person who asked me that question, to show you how, you know, these things can shift and change, because things shift and change. And at every turn, you just need to make sure that, one, you have the support you need. I'm very blessed to have some type of support, and it's really helpful support. And I'm also, but to also make sure that you are supporting yourself in the best ways possible. And I'm also sharing this with y'all so that y'all can be gentle with me. Like I said, like this thing, it impacts me because obviously, like, it's so sensitive and it's so intimate and it's so deep. And so it took me out the game for a little bit. I ain't gonna lie, like, not getting out of bed, like, I really struggle when my depression is triggered and I end up in a, and funny because I was in the bed rotten, scrolled up on Dominique's post about her recent Substack where she was talking about functional depression and how to get yourself out of the hole that you've made in your bed. And I'm like literally in the hole in my bed. Couldn't have came at a better time. And Dominique just is always doing that for me. She just knows how to speak life to me, even when she don't even know she's speaking it to me. So I obviously I got myself up. We doing the things. We're moving forward. And you just gotta roll with the punches, even when they like rock 'em, sock 'em, friend. You gotta roll with the punches and you gotta punch back. Okay, punch back as much as you can, and in ways that make sense. That don't necessarily mean like being confrontational, getting into it. Also, but if that's what you need, but it just means like my way up of punching back was unpacking my makeup into my new vanity that my cousin put together for me and sitting down and obviously getting really pretty and recording my podcast. And after this I'm gonna go back to the hole in my bed. but I'm rolling with it. And I'm punching back as much as I can. And so I encourage you to do the same, friend. And remember, if you want to holler at me, you can do it at Big V at Pink Boombox Podcast.com. Please send all your V submissions to the Pink Boombox. Last but not least, we are going to wrap up the show with this week's PSA. Our public service announcement is going to be about Chicago. If you know, I am a community organizer. More importantly, I am a lifelong resident of the city of Chicago, the south side of Chicago, east side specifically. And if you got me in a bit of a kerfuffle on TikTok about a take that I made about the Obama Library. It opened recently, and there's been a lot of conversation not just about it but about Obama. And I was saying that I understand why people are celebrating it. I also wish that we could have more critical conversations that really reckon with how harmful the library itself is to the community and the way that it is pushing displacement, and also how harmful he is, right, politically to the black community, and the way that he is more of a tool of white supremacy than he is a weapon for the black community against it. And funny enough, before I recorded this episode, one of my mutuals sent me a video that is going viral of him talking about how he can, see the greatness in Abraham Lincoln, or one, it wasn't Lincoln, it was one of them presidents. He can see the greatness in them even though they own slaves. And it's like, okay, great. Like, I'm sure you want people to see the greatness in you, despite the millions of people that you deported, despite the ways that you criminalized undocumented people, black people, despite all of the bombs that you dropped across the global south, despite the way that you bailed out banks and left community and industries that working class people need to survive to rot and float upstream. You want people to see your greatness, right? Despite all of the ways you contribute to the atrocities that plague so much of our society. And I really want people to, as much as folks are concerned, and if you are a concerned person about what is happening in terms of displacement, then I'm going to encourage you to check out an organization called Southside Together, who has deep roots in the community. They were formerly two different organizations that merged together, and they are the main organization behind what is called the CBA, which is Community Benefits Agreement. They are fighting to make sure that the community has some benefits that comes from this library and all of the business revenue and attention and development that it is going to bring to the city. And so many comments on my page and on other things that I've been saying about this, people say that we're never satisfied. And I don't know why people think that we should be satisfied with displacement, why we should be satisfied with disenfranchisement, why we should be satisfied with crumbs when people is making whole pies right in our motherfucking neighborhoods and telling us we can't eat it. I want us to think about the narrative of how it brings jobs and how oftentimes those jobs are low income jobs that aren't going to be offered to majority of the community, most of the community, and that definitely aren't going to help folks get out of the community, right? The things that we are given to pacify us, to pander us, to keep us complicit, and to keep us, praising these politicians who stuff their pockets while they snatch from ours and build, buildings and monuments to themselves while they shut down our neighborhoods by every school, every community building, every resource available. They take and take and take only so they can come and build for themselves. We have got to want more than pennies on the dime for communities that we are responsible for cultivating. These communities wouldn't be the prime locations that they are if not for the people who live in these communities and make these communities what they are. And when you divest from the people, right, and you rob the community, you ruin the soil. And the things that grow in its place don't actually look like community, right? It doesn't look like culture. It looks like opportunity, and it looks like erasure. And that is what this library is doing actively and will continue to do. And if we don't support organizations like Southside Together, if we don't support efforts like the Community Benefits Agreement, if we don't get involved and get engaged with actually fighting and demanding the things that our community needs in order to thrive, then we won't survive. As so many people aren't. So if you are in Chicago, Saturday, July 11th from 12 to 4, there is Southside Together is also going to be holding a community cookout. It's going to be against the quantum facility that they are trying to build in our community. It's going to be at 83rd in Houston and Russell Square Park. So come out, support Southside Together, help them fight not only to get community benefits for the people directly impacted by the displacement and the gentrification happening on the South Side, but also to fight against these facilities and these spaces that are only coming to pollute our air and poison our soil. And I want to wrap up this PSA by saying that we are the heroes that we are waiting for. And that is going to be it for this episode of the Pink Boombox podcast. Thank y'all so much for tuning in again. And we're going to close it out like we always do. Why don't, let's see, what am I going to rap this time? Let's do the last good verse Nicki Minaj ever wrote. Pull up in a monster automobile gangster with a bad bitch that came from Sri Lanka. Yeah, I'm in a Tonka, color of Willy Wonka. You could be the king, but watch the queen conquer.